Hi guys, so let us now discuss another conditional statement. This time we're going to use if-else statements. So unlike your if statement, the if-else statements are used when you have two possible outcomes. So in an if-else conditional statement, at least one of those outcomes will be performed by the computer based on the condition. So the syntax in creating your if-else statement is still have your if statement, your if, and then followed by the condition inside the parentheses, then followed by the braces, wherein the first set of brace will be the codes when the condition is true. So therefore, once the condition is true, this set of codes will be performed. Then it will be followed by the word else, in small letters always. And else now will now be followed by the braces, which contains the code whenever the condition is true. So unlike your if statement, you have only one set of code that will be performed or not. While in the if else, you have two sets of codes, one of which will be performed based on the conditions that you have set. So one is for the true when the condition is true, the other one is when the condition is false. So let us give an example. So when you use your if else statement, you start with the if, then followed by the condition. Let us say we are going to create a condition wherein if you are a registered voter, or even if you are qualified to vote or not. So what is required here is your age. So the condition would be, we know that a qualified voter should be an age of greater than 18 or 18 and above. So if we can say that if 30 is greater than or equal to 18, then what will happen is that since 30 is greater than 18, that's true. So what will happen is you're going to print, in this case, this is just an example, don't worry. So I just have to print you are qualified to vote. Let's say that would be the statements whenever this condition is true. So in this case, 30 is greater than 18, greater than or equal to 18, so it's true. Therefore, this one will be printed. So, but if it's not, if you have an if else statement, you will have your else here after the brace, and then the set of conditions that belongs to your else are the codes whenever the condition is false. So this time you are going to print to say you are not qualified to vote. So these are the two sets of statements that will be printed, supposedly the possible outcomes. So now these outcomes will be based on the conditions that you have set. In this case, the condition is 30 greater than 18, so this one will always be true. So when you run your program, it will print you are qualified to vote, because that's the statement that that belongs to the true when the condition is true. While if you change the value here, let us say 3, so this time 3 is greater than 18, which is actually false. So it will now ignore this statement, the qualified to vote statement. It will move to else, because this one is false, this one will be ignored. All the statements here in between the braces will be ignored, no matter how many statements are there. It will move immediately to else, and then it will now perform all the statements in between these braces. So this time it will now printing you are not qualified to vote. So let's run the program. As you can see, it prints you are not qualified to vote. So these are fixed conditions, but we can set conditions by assigning it to a variable. Let us say, instead of just a fixed value of 30 and 3, we assign a variable for that one. Let us say age. So this time we make our program more interactive by allowing our users to enter values and store those values into your variable age. Then so that whatever the age that the value that the user will give, it will now be evaluated here, and the computer will now have to print either one of these two statements. So qualified if it's greater than or equal to 18, and not qualified if it's not greater than or equal to 18. So this makes our program more complex and more interactive. So of course, when you're using variables, you have to declare those variables. In this case, I'm going to declare variable age as an integer. So since I will be using, I'll be accepting values for your age. So of course, to accept values, you will be requiring a statement that will store those values that will be accepted from the user. Let us say we prompt the user to enter an age, so we write printf so that the user will know what the program is actually asking. Enter your age, let us say. Then after that, after the printf, you scan for the values by accepting those values and store those values that will be entered into your variable age. So as you can see here, I have the variable age. So age is an integer, so I'm going to use %d, and then store that value using the ampersand sign and the variable name age. So whatever value that will be entered here will now be stored at variable age. And then whatever the value of variable age is, that will be the value that will be evaluated in our condition. So if the user enters a value which is 20, then age now will be equal to 20. And then the computer decides on what, if it's going to print this one or the one that is in your else statement. So we allow our computer, and with this code, we allow our computer to decide on which of these two set of codes will be used by creating a condition. So let us run the program. So first it asks for your age. So if you have entered a value, let us say 20, so value of 20 will now be, value of age will now be 20. It will be passed on to age. It will be stored into age, and then it will now be evaluated. Is age is greater than or equal to 18? So if it's true, since in this case it's true, it will now print you are qualified to vote. Okay, but when you change the value, you run it again, then ask for another age, a value, let's say 10. The condition says if its age is less than or greater than 10 or greater than 18 or greater than or equal to 18, it only prints you are qualified to vote. But if it's not, so it becomes false, then it prints you are not qualified to vote. So in this case, 10 is less than or greater is not greater than or equal to 18, so it becomes false, so it prints you are not qualified to vote. Okay, so that's how you use your if statements, if else statements, I mean. So in an if else, there are two possible outcomes. One set of codes that will be performed when the condition is true, while another set of codes when the condition is false.